Hello, wonderful people of tonight's grand finale of Salon de la Vie. It's very exciting to see you all flooding in from the waiting room. Just finishing off my. I'm going to just stall you for a couple of minutes because there's a few more people arriving. I'm just going to mixing with the calibration of my summer cup here. As you can see, I'm just hovering outside the secret garden. Summer cup doesn't seem quite so appropriate today because it's really rainy down here. I've got sunburn from yesterday, but today it's raining, so it's good to be on a varied island. And I'm just trying to get the measures right. I hope you're all drinking out there as well. Chin chin, push hearts. Let's take a quick slug. I am one of your hosts. You'll be used to me if you've seen any more of the salons on this season. I'm Becca. As you know, we've been looking at the suffrage movement and particularly women and artists and theatre in suffrage for the whole of this salon season, and it's been really lovely. And the person who's been doing that with me is the lovely Naomi, who I shall introduce to you in a moment and bring on the scene. But before I do that, I just want to say that we're going to be working together tonight to present you with a little bit more depth on stuff that we've talked about in previous salons, because we have the joy of being together for the evening, Naomi and myself, which is very nice, because usually I've got her on a kind of pre-record. And we're going to be looking at some of the scenes that we've used and some new scenes as well. And we're going to do some live readings and some live songs. And we've got a game made all up about cats, theatre cats. So it's going to be quite a lot of, slightly anarchic fun, hopefully, where academia and anarchy sort of blur into a fabulous new whole. What we're doing is new to us. We haven't done a show on Zoom before, so this is like a slightly moving somewhere in between show and webinar. We're hoping it feels kind of intimate and interesting. If you would like to tell us how you found it, especially if you compare it to our other work, you're really welcome to drop us a text afterwards, or an email, or to chat to us on Twitter, or while we're working, to also chat to us in the messages. We'll be monitoring those. We've got the lovely Matt, who's our tech guy, who's going to be helping behind the scenes a bit and bringing any questions you might have to our attention as well. So I suppose I'm sort of saying, bear with us a bit, because this is a new format for us again. The whole, you know how we're new to digital and trying to make friends with it all, but also do let us have your feedback, because we want to get good at this and want you to have a nice time. So I think I will probably introduce you and ask Matt to shine a light on the lovely Dr. Naomi Paxton. Little rounds of applause at home, please. Thank you very much. Yay, there she is.
Hello.
Hello. So Naomi, on my running order that I have just below camera here, it says introduce cat in a hat and hashtags. So
yes,
I wonder if you'd like to do that.
I can, absolutely. So I'm going to be the one who's, hello everybody, thank you so much for joining us for this Salon de la Vie taking the stage finale. Very exciting to see you all here, thank you. I'm going to be running the tech side of this, and there will be some slight slownesses in changing, but we're just going to enjoy them. We're going to enjoy the transition and be grateful that we don't just speed through. We'll enjoy every moment. So I'm going to introduce the cat in a hat. Here we go. Although actually it was cat in a hat, now it's just cat. Cat. Here we are. Let me just move this down a bit. Ooh. Oh, that's annoying. No, it's not. Okay, so
well done for not falling at the first tech hurdle there. Well done.
Thank you very much. Cats. So the hashtag, if you would like to take to Twitter, you please do use the SDLV, so Salon de la Vie, taking the stage, and tweet vigorously about what a lovely time you're having. That would be great. I shall check later and retweet all of the loveliness. So this is the kind of element where you get to participate or influence what happens next. Here we have some pictures of cats taken by one of the playwrights we're going to be talking about tonight, Evelyn Glover, who is quite a mysterious figure. She published one book and it's called Cats and My Camera, because she enjoyed taking photographs of cats. So we've got some cats here. Here we've got Jan and Jim, as you can see. And we've got Tim and young James, very sweet. The nine-toed kitten, and Pauline. Yeah, quite. And then Peter, and then the other Peter, who's not happy that he's sharing a screen with another cat called Peter. No, Peter from the Theatre Royal Haymarket. So if you select one of these cats, you will get a surprise. You will either get a song, or you might get a quiz, or you might get a little magic trick that I made in 2018 to do with suffrage. So yes, pick a cat if it's your favourite, or a cat at random, but make a note of the names. We've got Jan. You could have Jan. You could also have Jim. Look at Jim. How could you resist Jim? What about Tim with his neat paws? Young James, so innocent. What does he know of suffrage? The 9-toed kitten. Wow, extraordinary. Pauline, looking very sophisticated there. And then Peter, the black and white cat, and then Peter, the cross cat from the Theatre Royal Haymarket. So at any stage, you could pick one of these cats and put it in the chat. And then depending on which cat you pick, something will happen. That's very exciting. So let's see if has anybody got a cat they want to pick now, because we could trigger something exciting.
Oh,
We've got a cat. Tim. Sandra says Tim, what's that? Tim is Becca's song.
Woo!
Becca,
right.
Becca. Thank you, Sandra.
I was asked Becca's song. Okay. Right. So I was asked to pick a song, and I got very carried away with the cats. So so we don't have a song about suffrage for this song. We have a song about cats. So I hope you all like The Cure, played oddly on a ukulele. So welcome to tonight's Salon. We move like cagey tigers. Oh, we couldn't get closer than this. The way we walk, the way we talk, the way we stalk, the way we kiss. We slip through the streets while everyone's asleep, getting bigger and sleeker and whiter and brighter. We bite and scratch and scream all night. Let's go and throw all the songs we know into the sea, you and me. All those years and no one heard. I'll show you in spring, it's a treacherous thing. We missed you, hissed the love cats. We missed you, hissed the love cats. You're so wonderfully, 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 wonderfully pretty. Oh, you know that I'd do anything for you. We should have each other to tea, we should have each other with cream, and curl up by the fire and sleep for a while. It's the grooviest thing, the perfect dream. And hand in hand is the only way to land, and always the right way round. Not broken into pieces like the hated little nieces. How could we miss someone as dumb as this? We missed you, hissed the love cats. We missed you, hissed the love cats. Ba 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 ba. Let's go.
Yay!
There you go. It's all about cats. And
Thank
also
you.
suffrage.
Thank you very much. That's absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Becca. Let's see if I can join you on the spot. Matt, can you spotlight me as well? So can we have a double spotlight situation? Woo! Thank you. Excellent. All right, that was Tim. Tim, cat song. Other opportunities to choose cats will arise later on. Stay tuned, folks. So we just
on that first vote. That was very quick on that first vote. There were quite a lot of cats that trickled in afterwards. I think the first person's got to be very quick on that button.
Yeah, if you have a cat in mind, you better write that down. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of recap. So this is the 5th session in this Salon de la Vie series. So we're going to do a bit of a recap of some of the other ones if you haven't seen them. If you'd like to see them, or if these little teasers whet your appetite, then you can see the full salons on YouTube, on the Scary Little Girls YouTube page. There's a captioned version actually as well for each one. So the first one was Votes for Children, which was an interesting thing to talk about, and kind of reflected really, I thought about it because of a conversation that we had, Becca, about your research into Greenham and your experience of Greenham as a child, and of experiencing activism as a child growing up in that environment.
Yes, sorry, you were waiting for me to say something else. I was just listening. Oh, that's fascinating.
That's fine. No, you can listen. Yeah. That's fine. So I've kind of been thinking about the experiences of children within the suffrage movement, and also the Suffrage Society set up by children and for children as part of the movement. And we talked a little bit in that salon about the Drummers Union, which was children, boys and girls from the age 6 up. And their idea is really to sort of change the world for the better, kind of against class discrimination and sex discrimination. And then we're also talking about children involved in plays. And we know that there were lots of children involved in lots of suffrage entertainments, and they were really part of that performative propaganda of the movement. But there's one play that we had an extract of. I had a few in that one, but one called The Reforming of Augustus, which is a very odd play, written by a 17-year-old girl who was part of the Drummers Union, called Irene Rutherford MacLeod. And it's a sort of fairy play where the Queen of the Fairies appears in a dream. And she what's unusual about this play is that her fairies are called things like deputation, hunger striker, stone thrower. And it really kind of gives us a glimpse into the fact that the young people who were involved in the suffrage campaign were really completely up to speed with the issues around militancy, and also up to speed with the kind of vagaries of protesting. So we've got a little extract here from.
Before we go into it, Naomi,
go on, yeah, go for it, yeah.
Would you, thank you, Christian Jackson, that's very kind, and probably a little bit too kind, I might say. But before you go into that, I just wondered, would you just tell us a bit about how these scenes came about for you? Because actually there's a bit of a backstory of having pulled these actors together during a really difficult time, and there's a really nice kind of, I don't know, I was wondering if you wanted to explain how this company of actors that we're about to see in all these extracts kind of was, yeah, how they came together with you.
Yeah, sure thing. During the first lockdown, obviously a lot of people who were in theatre or working professionally as performers didn't have work, and the industry sort of shut down. And I've done suffrage play readings in the past with colleagues and with friends and with some students, but I sort of thought it might be fun to do online suffrage play readings as people were stuck at home, we couldn't meet up. And so I sort of speculatively put something up on social media, and actors I already knew, but other actors I didn't know got involved. And so we've done since last August, August 2020, we've done about 26 reading sessions of different suffrage plays around different themes. I think we've read well over 50 suffrage plays, and we've had performers and academics join us from the States, from Australia, from Europe, as well as from the UK. And it's been a really wonderful way to read some of the more obscure pieces. I suppose that things where I probably would think, I don't know if this worked, like this one, for example, the one we're going to hear, I might think, gosh, it's quite an effort to get everyone into a room and ask them to kind of come into London, or even if I'm paying them to go, well, I don't know what this is going to sound like. But actually on Zoom, it was really nice for everybody to be able to read and share that space and time, and also to know that there wasn't much at stake apart from, you know, having an enjoyable evening and then discussing the issues. So we've kind of built a lovely company of all sorts of performers from all sorts of walks of life who've been able to talk about the plays and discover the plays for themselves, and also kind of be cast against type to find their own playful engagement with theatre from this period. Yeah.
Well, I'm very grateful to them and for all that stuff, because it's been an absolute bonus in this Salon series. So yes, big love to all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. So should we see this scene? So this is a little extract from The Reforming of Augustus by Irene Rutherford MacLeod. Again, I'm going to share my screen, so please bear with me during this exciting transitional period.
I feel like I should have prepared some hold music.
You could sing some hold music.
Now, my people, Deputation and Protest Maker have some tales to tell us. We have not seen Deputation for a long time. Where have you hidden yourself all this while, Deputation?
I have been among other worlds, Your Majesty.
Wherefore, my friend?
Your Majesty, I was ashamed to say it. I was depressed, I was weary, I sought the great silence.
Be not ashamed, dear sister, it matters not, so that you are with us again. But tell us of the last occasion there was need of your help.
Your Majesty, I shall never forget it. As I stood by the leader, gazing at that sea of eager faces, I was inspired by the wonderful atmosphere. Ringing shouts filled the hall as we went out. Big Ben boomed 7 times. The crowd saw us, and there was a deadly lull. followed by a tremendous roar, like that of 1,000 mighty bulls, or like the breaking of great waves upon the shore. We passed unmolested for some paces until we saw, looming in front of us, there were thousands of police, mounted and on foot. The women tried to push their way through unseen. One, smaller than the others, managed to climb the high railings and ran a few yards. She slipped and fell and was dragged back. She fought valiantly, as did the rest, but...
Futile deputation. Futile.
Wow. How old do we think the girl was who wrote that? Because it's weighty language, isn't it?
She was 17 at the time she wrote that.
That's amazing.
Mm.
What a remarkable girl. Do we know
It's
anything else
interesting.
about her? Presumably not.
Not lots, and we know she was an active part of the Drummers Union. We know that this play, I mean, this play is quite unusual in that it's actually been published, that this play was performed for the young Purple, White and Green Club. So again, the kind of young militant suffrage campaigners, teenage suffrage campaigners, and for other members of the Drummers Union, who are the people who played in the WSPU, the Women's Social and Political Unions Drum and Fife Band, which is the image that Jackie Fleming did for that first Votes for Children section. So no, I'm not aware. I don't know if she wrote any further plays. I've mostly kind of just found this one and thought about her engagement as a child, and kind of thought of also some of my research into, say, Suffrage Punch and Judy shows, and suffrage magic shows and suffrage shies and fairground rides, and the ways in which they were able to kind of take stories, or Suffrage Alice in Wonderland, you know, themed plays, take existing stories and actually sort of zoom out and look at them from a different point of view, and something that really definitely included children, not only as sort of audience, but also as participants. Yeah.
And again, that goes to the heart of what we keep saying, you know, every time we talk about these, that we're on the shoulders of giants, that we're seeing the same things happen. You know, we've all probably as performers, and certainly lots of SLG stuff, and lots of women out there making their own, showing a story you think you know through a feminist lens, or there's just sort of and when it's done, when it's done well, it's a fascinating window, isn't it? And that earnestness that she manages to have as a young person, I remember being that earnest about everything at that age, but I don't remember being able to write about it in quite that sophisticated language.
Oh no, yeah, mannered but interesting. But if you're interested in finding out more about that Votes for Children and a couple of other extracts that we included in that session, then do check that out on YouTube. So that was number one.
Yeah,
Votes for Children.
You will see the older actress in that piece playing very much against type in the other section if you watch that whole episode, don't you? Which is really nice. She does it beautifully.
Absolutely
very young. Yeah, very good.
Yeah. So our second salon was, oh yes, Birds of a Feather. So it was about animals. Oh, look, very good. The parrots.
For you.
Thank you very much. And that was looking at a number of different things, actually. So we looked at a parrot story, and we did an extract from a parrot play, which you'll see a little bit of in a minute. And then we talked about anti-vivisection and animal rights campaigning around this period. Becca, do you want to reflect on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very we were kind of promoting, I think, for this whole season of Salon, we were just trying to raise awareness about keep the ban, which is a really great campaign about keeping the ban on fox hunting that I very much support and have the badge for on my bag. And I was very interested to, I grew up with a lot more, I think, animal rights being much more present in the media and in activism than they are now, mostly because the sentencing is so insanely harsh for acts committed against businesses like Huntington's Life Sciences and things like that. It's been much harsher than they are for sort of violent or sexual crimes often. So it's a really strange, we haven't really managed to sort of eviscerate the animal rights movement now, and that all of looking at that like really sort of fed into being very interested in coming across little bits and pieces here and there of finding out that just as I had connected for me, you know, vegetarianism and feminism and all that sort of stuff, that the suffragettes were doing a similar sort of thing, and I was really moved by that. And I was really interested in it, that it was, again, when that it was if you become brave about one issue, you quite often become brave about something else, including something as that would have been as everyday as eating meat, or something that would have been seen as being in the way of progress, like being anti-vivisection, and also in the way of fashion. You know, they were often these are reclaimed feathers, by the way. But they would often campaign against the erasure of wild birds for hats and fashion and things like that. So I just thought it was a really powerful part of a movement. As a vegan and animal lover myself, and it was an excuse to have a puppy in that salon as well. So again, if you go and watch the whole salon, you will meet my friend Maxie, and he's awesome too, and my little dog Gilbert. So that's quite nice. All an excuse to get more animals into the show, really.
Vegetarianism is a really interesting part of the suffrage movement, and so intertwined, not only as an ethos, but also as venues. Vegetarian restaurants, we know certainly in the West End, in London, the Eustace Miles and the Gardenia restaurants, there were suffrage plays done in that, there were suffrage meetings done in those restaurants. And I was recently looking at a play that was done, a sort of community play that was done in a vegetarian restaurant in Edinburgh, where everyone brought dishes to share before they then did a play. So vegetarianism was a huge part of the suffrage movement as well. And so we talked a little bit in that one, Birds of a Feather, about this extraordinary idea that this one woman had about training parrots to shout votes for women. You'll have to go and have a watch of that one if you're interested. But then I really wanted to pair kind of that conversation with a play called The Parrot Cage by an American suffrage campaigner called an actress called Mary Shaw, which is a really interesting piece, and it's got a lot of parrots in a cage, and one of them, the free-souled parrot, has had the courage to escape. So we're going to see an extract from the end of that play now. So Gemma and Marussia, who you saw in the last extract, they are playing all the other parrots. So when you look at them, just think of them as being all the other parrots. I'm just going to share my screen again. Please bear with me. Thank you.
How can I use my power, feel my joy, chained up in a cage? See, the window is open, the cage door ajar. Fly, fly, my sisters, fly to the forest of freedom. I will break this chain. I will.
She tugs fiercely at the chain. It snaps.
At last, I am free, free, free.
She disappears from the cage with motion of the arms as if by flying. Parrots all squawk and scream.
Free soul, come back, come.
She has gone, flown away.
To starvation and certain death.
And just for a dream. Do you think there is any such thing as a forest?
Well, it's never been proved there is as yet.
Well, it was brave of her anyway, to out into the unknown alone.
Come, my sisters, follow me. Your wings are clipped, I know, but perhaps they are strong enough to beat you to the forest. I will help you with my strong wings, but even if you fall and perish, at least you will die free parrots, with all the longing of the forest in your hearts. Not caged, mutilated things, without souls enough to realize the wrongs that have been done to you. Follow me, follow me, follow me.
The parrots move so they are huddled together, heads on one side, listening.
If my wings were not clipped, I believe I would follow her.
Because my wings are clipped, I'm afraid of the unknown. So I try and bring God's forest and sunlight into the cage. It helps me to forget.
A man's voice is heard outside, repeated phrases one after another, waiting for the parrots to repeat the phrase after him.
Pretty Polly.
Pretty Polly.
Follow me, follow.
Scratch Polly's head.
Scratch Polly's head.
Follow me, follow me.
Polly's place is in the cage.
Follow me, follow me.
Continue until the curtain falls. The man's voice repeating Polly's places in the cage, alternating with the free soul parrot's voice repeating follow me. The parrots are huddled together in the center of the perch, listening to the distant voice of the free soul parrot, oblivious of all else till the curtain falls.
Polly's place is in the cage. Polly's place is in the cage.
Follow me, follow me.
You did a lovely interview with the lead actress in that piece as well, in the salon. that's really worth going and having watched it. We won't sort of tell you all about it now, but it really affected her, the messages of the piece, and it's really she's very articulate about it. It's a nice interview.
And it's a really good example of a play that I wasn't sure when you read it. It says, you know, they're all the parrots, they squawk, they make noises, and you think, oh, I don't know if this is going to work. And it's one of those ones where the actors really wholeheartedly go for it. Actually, the simplicity and the passion of the message really does come through. So I was really, thank you, Becca, for the opportunity to share it.
Yeah, it's been lovely. I mean, they do it so well, don't they? It's really moving. Yeah. Like you say, they really make that work. It's lovely. When I write things, I quite often realise, well, it makes you realise, having been an actor for a long time, makes you realise actually how much work actors do and how great it is. And they put, when good actors get your script and make it, you go, oh, it does work. And you don't just pat yourself on the back. You think, oh, thank God for actors, which is really nice.
So I suppose so now I've got on my running order a chat about the first playwright that we're going to talk about this session, who is Elizabeth Robins. Are you a tremendous fan of Elizabeth Robins, Becca?
I am. I mean, I'm worried that I read a biography of hers, and I absolutely was like, how can this woman have had so many lives in one life? She's one of those people that just really, to the point where I'm now thinking, actually, am I misremembering? Am I merging different women together? But I well, you know, I could take a guess at a few things I think she does, and you can tell me if I go way off piece. But she sort of seems to embody so many iconic parts of the era, actually, and cover so many different really like non sequiturs areas of life that I thought were fascinating. So yeah, do you want me to try and remember, to tell you what I'm remembering and you tell me if it's wrong, or do you want to just talk about her?
Well, I don't know, we didn't have this as the quiz section, but I can introduce you a bit and you can go, yes, I remember that. So
okay, I'll put my hand in. If I go, I'll go ding 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 if I knew it.
Super, we'll do it. So Elizabeth Robins was an American actress. She was actually born in Kentucky, USA, and she began her acting. She began her acting career in New York, and she moved to London at the age of 26, I think, in 1888, to kind of embrace new opportunities on the stage. And she produced and played the leading role in the first English production of Ibsen's Hedda Gabler in 1891.
And she helps to translate them as well, doesn't she?
Yeah, she's amazing.
What?
Yeah, and she co-produced and appeared in a number of Ibsen plays in the 1890s in London, and she really kind of gained a respected profile in that area as being a really amazing interpreter of this kind of the new woman movement in the theatre at that time.
And he really trusted her, didn't he? He sort of like let her use his, like, it was the sort of, I think, maybe I'm making this bit up. In my head, Ibsen loved her, thought she was great, and let her do those, like, gave her the chance to do those translations, wanted it to be her that did them. That's what it said in the biography that I read anyway.
Great, always. So what's quite interesting about that, so she was obviously thinking and having kind of ideas around feminism and kind of a raising of consciousness around that, but she didn't have much sympathy with suffrage campaigners in this period. Yeah, right at the turn of the century, she didn't have a lot of sympathy with suffrage campaigners. But in 1906, she was commissioned to develop a 3-act play by actress-manager Gertrude Kingston. So by 1906, the Actresses Franchise League and the Women Writers Suffrage League haven't started yet, but there are a number of people in the theatre who are key supporters of the movement. And so Gertrude Kingston, who runs, who's going to go on and run a theatre, she commissions Elizabeth Robins to write this play. And kind of Robins goes on tour. She attends suffrage meetings and she spends time with suffrage speakers. And because of that, she really becomes seriously interested in the suffrage movement, and she is obviously quickly recognised as sort of an important influential ally. So we can see in this period where there are key suffrage meetings and dinners, Robins is there along with the Shaws and, you know, along with many other people, Christopher Pankhurst and Beatrice Harraden and other people, Evelyn Sharp. And so there are characters in Elizabeth Robins' play which became Votes for Women, a 3-act play called Votes for Women, produced actually not by Gertrude Kingston, sadly, but by Harley Granville Barker at the Court Theatre, which are kind of really inspired by the suffrage campaigners that she saw, including one called Hannah Mitchell, who was a Northern suffrage campaigner and part of the WSPU. Her book, The Hard Way Up, is definitely worth the read if you can find it. So she, through seeing the suffrage movement first at hand and through researching it to write this play, she then became a suffragist, and she was one of the founder members of not only the Actresses Franchise League, but then the Women Writers Suffrage League in 1908.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I stopped putting my hand up quite a long time ago.
it's
really exhausted it.
So what have I written here? So she donated a quarter of her fee and the royalties for the play to the National Union of Women's Suffrage Societies and the WSPU, and 4 actresses from the original cast of Boats of Women joined the Actresses Franchise League, and she was a vice president. And then she reshaped her play into a novel called The Convert. She stopped acting in 1902, so she didn't carry on acting, but she worked as a journalist and as a writer and a very influential speaker.
Yes. I won't give it away, but I know what we talk about afterwards with her. That's the other thing I know about her, is the other side of her life when she moves into that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So she writes, there's a book of hers, in fact you can get it all online, it's called Way Stations, W-A-Y, Way Stations, where you can see a lot of her speeches, and they're extraordinary. They're beautifully written, and she writes for the WSPU, so a lot of them are kind of dealing with issues around militancy. As far as we know, she's not involved in any militant actions herself, but she articulates the kind of thoughts and feelings of those in that side of the movement very strongly. And she's also uses her words very cleverly in order to encourage people to join the movement. And we have an extract from a speech she made at Newcastle Town Hall. Let me just get this up. Newcastle Town Hall in 1908. So this is just 2 months before the AFL was founded, and this is read by Annie Walker.
An ever-growing number of people have begun to see clearly that there never was before, in all the course of history, such a chance for the wisdom of our half the world to manifest itself as is given to women today. Join in this movement. Give it your special gift, whatever that gift may be. Give it your time and your influence. Everybody has some. Give it pounds or give it pennies, or give it defence. Do your share with the sure knowledge that you are not only doing, but receiving good. The situation is enormously interesting. Before the coming of these wonderful days, women had to do their work. Even the most gifted and the bravest women had to work not only heavily handicapped, but without any hope of making the battle a whit easier for others. A woman might, if she had great abilities and great luck, she might make an individual success. But she did so with the disheartening knowledge that her most shining achievement left the great mass of women, and therefore of men, left the world very little better off, in spite of all her individual striving, in spite of all her individual success. What she achieved did not really count in the long run. By so much as she distinguished herself, she was thought of as an exception, a sport, as the men of science say. But the women who are working for high ends today may work gladly and with uplifted hearts, for they find themselves, especially I say this to the younger women, you find yourselves in the field at a great moment in the world's history. Your good fortune it is to be offered a glorious piece of work at a time when what you do is going to count. Whether you have read history, or whether you have read only the newspapers, you must have come to see that the times are ripe for a new and a nobler standard of the value of woman's work. Until the suffrage movement made such a statement possible and true, never before could anyone with a sense of responsibility stand up and say to an audience of all sorts and conditions, there isn't a woman here who may not have her share in the honour of counting for something in the politics of her country.
So just really about encouraging people to see themselves as worthwhile, to see themselves as of value to the movement, and to see themselves as bringing whatever skills they have to the movement. And if those skills of people are thinking that they have not much to bring, then say, well, come anyway and we'll teach you something. So she's an enticing and influential writer in this period, definitely.
It's lovely, really lovely. And she gets involved in some really big issues, doesn't she, later on after this, that we'll talk about a bit later in the programme.
Yes.
The programme of events.
Right, I think it's time for cats.
Oh!
Does anybody have a cat that you wish to see the cat again? Or does anybody remember a cat? Tim has gone. Don't pick Tim, people. I can share.
The
nine-toed kitten. Claire has said, oh, 2 votes for the nine-toed kitten. Let me look at my list. The nine-toed kitten. What are the odds? Becca's song.
Don't worry. Okay, not the same song.
Nine-toed kitten's Becca's song.
Different than nine-toed kitten song. Okay, I don't have a nine-toed kitten song. That would be really cool. So I'll try and create one for the next time we're live. That's the next commission for our songwriters. But I do have, and in fact, I can see that one of the people that voted for nine-toed is my mother-in-law. Thank you for watching, Helen. You've been a stalwart of Portuguese. You're an awesome person. Thank you very much. And this is I can dedicate this song to you, because this is about they used to take, very much like peace activists at Greenham and things, taking existing songs and changing the words. And I think this is a sort of a rousing sort of American song from the era that they put their own words to as the suffrage movement. And it's all about getting the mothers to vote and giving the ballot to the mothers. So going out to Helen McFarlane for this one. Also got a key change in it. See how I do with that. Had quite a bit of summer cup now. Ring the good old bugle, boy, we'll sing another song. Sing it with a spirit that shall help the cause along. Sing it as we ought to sing it, cheerily and strong. Giving the ballot to the mothers. Hurrah, hurrah, we bring the jubilee. Hurrah, hurrah, the homes they shall be free. So we sing the chorus from the mountains to the sea, giving the ballot to the mothers. Bring the dear old banner, boys, and fling it to the wind. Mother, wife and daughter, let it shelter and defend. Equal rights our motto is, we're loyal to the end, giving the ballot to the mothers. Hurrah, hurrah, we bring the jubilee. Hurrah, hurrah, the homes shall be free. So we sing the chorus from the mountains to the sea, giving the ballot to the mothers. Dedication to all the mothers watching tonight. I know Christian Jackson is the mother of some very important people that I love very much. So yes, goes up to you too.
Excellent work. Good there. Good work on cats. Excellent stuff.
Did you know that song, Naomi? Did you know it? Has it come across?
I've never heard it before. I've seen the words, but I've never heard it before.
Yes. I've contributed something.
Come on. Okay, recap of Salon 3R. Nobody expects the suffragettes. This, again, you can catch this on YouTube, but this was about surprise and pop-up and unexpected performances by suffrage campaigners.
So it's very appropriate that it follows cats.
And you'll see, if you go on the YouTube, you'll see the image for that, drawn by the brilliant Jackie Fleming, is of the lapboard ladies and their protest. I'm not going to talk about the lapboard ladies. You're just going to have to go to the YouTube channel and find out what they did. But we are going to see a little clip, and this is an extract from a play called At the Gates, which is a site-specific play set outside Westminster, outside the Houses of Parliament. And in the play, we see a suffrage campaigner and her encounters with various people who pass her by. And it's part of a really interesting genre of suffrage plays that are sort of ostensibly verbatim style or site-specific style that really take us into the the constructed, but the lives of the lived experiences of suffrage campaigners. A lot of those are around the selling of newspapers, for example. Suffrage newspaper selling was a huge deal, and if you look in suffrage newspapers, you'll often find little poems or stories or cartoons about their experiences, much in the same way that if anybody works in a sort of public-facing job, you have all kinds of stories about, you know, encounters with the general public. But there are suffrage plays where you kind of encounter, or you get a glimpse into the world, the world of campaigners on the streets. And anyone who's done any campaigning, who's been visibly an activist for anything on the streets will be familiar with the sort of encounters that you might have and the sort of confidence you need and that you build during the process of your activism journey. So the extract, we're going to see is from At the Gates. It's an encounter with a drunken man who's played by the brilliant Stephanie Feynman. So I'm going to
roast food, is it? I think not. Oh, I think not.
I've heard something like that before.
What I want to know is, why do you grind us down? That's what I want to know. Why do you grind us down? You take the bread out of our mouths. You leave us the butter. Look at me. Can I get work? No. Why? You have taken it out of my very hands. Yes, you have. I know what I'm talking about. I'm a clever man now, I am. Oh, you don't think so? Oh, indeed. Well, then let me tell you one thing, and then perhaps you will alter your opinion. I know what keeps you going. Everybody knows. You're paid. You're paid to stand here. Look at your clothes. Look at your hat. 1 guinea a night is what you get. 1 guinea a night. And here I am with empty pockets. Look at them. Nice things to feed babies on, aren't they? Empty. Well, yours are filled with Tory gold. I'm a man too. You're not a man.
Thank good for that.
What are you muttering about? Well, don't be afraid to speak out. Can you walk over Westminster Bridge at 5 in the morning?
I dare say I could if I put my whole mind to it.
Oh, can you? I'll wait for your answer. You can't. What can you do? Can you sweep a floor or dust a ceiling? What you should do is go home and wash shirts.
Thanks. I'd rather not.
Oh, too proud. That's it. Too proud. What right have you to be proud when a man stands idle before you? A man, I say. All you want is to grind us down. And let me tell you this. My old missus can wash shirts.
Then I wish you would wash yours. Do go away.
I know my place. I am talking to you as a gentleman should. Perhaps you listen if you got more money for doing it. You can't fool me. That's an expensive fur you're wearing. And look at your hat. You couldn't buy that for a guinea.
Come now, that'll do. Move on.
Oh, move on, is it? Oh, very well. He's moving me on. Moving me on because I was talking to her. I'll tell you a secret. I am a gentleman. I am. And I am a vote. She can't vote. And while I have my way, she shan't.
Nice specimen, that, of the free and independent voter.
Yes. I wonder which party he belongs to.
So the one that gives him the most beer.
I want to ask you one question, my lady, before you grind us down.
I thought I told you to move on.
Oh, no offence, Governor. Perhaps you did. Perhaps you did not.
Yeah, perhaps I did. And the sooner you go, the better it would be for you.
I suppose that to question this young woman about her hat is not a case for the police.
I intend to make it one.
Oh, you do. You do. Has that any of that gold fallen out of her pocket into
What's
your...
that you're saying?
I thought the young lady dropped something. That's all.
That's all, is it? Now you move on.
Don't forget, you are addressing a voter. My old woman's a lot better looking than you are.
And obviously occasionally observed from perhaps a method approach taken there, or perhaps just memory from maybe an unfortunate experience. She's really good at that. It's great. And weird that it translates completely to experiences we've all had with men in our lives 100 years later or whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting. And obviously, Nick's playing the policeman in that, but what's interesting about that play as well is that there is a character of a male sympathiser, and obviously we know there's a tremendous amount of support particularly in the theatre and by men of the theatre and men of the arts for the suffrage movement, and that play is quite unique in featuring a vocal male sympathiser as part of the people that the suffragette faces.
We like a pro-feminist male ally.
We definitely do, and thank you to all those who have joined us tonight. Okay, now we're now going to do well, it's actually a re-extract, a sort of much longer extract of a play called Bit of Blighty that we first did as part of one of the Scary Little Girls Living Literature walks.
Yes.
Do you want to just introduce those, Becca?
I think, yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people some people who are here with us will have been on them and know them. They're a thing we've been doing for quite a while. There's something that we basically had a lovely director work with us many years ago called Abby Anderson, who's very talented, and she'd been working at the Globe on Mark Rylance's Sonnet Walks, where you have actors hidden in real life around a sort of pre-organized route. And then the audience, as an audience, you go and discover them, and they kind of come out of the real life of the place that you're in. So it's like a sort of performative treasure hunt. It's very nice. And we wanted to take them and do feminist stuff with them, and we wanted to do different authors and not just do it around the globe as Shakespeare. And basically, Abby brought them to us, and Mark Rylance gave her and us permission to do what we wanted with them in the spirit of how they were made, which was lovely. And we've done all sorts with them. We started off doing Elizabeth Barrett Browning sonnets, and then I've actually done all sorts. We've done stuff on the Mitfords. We've done stuff focusing on different towns and cities and places, and so sometimes it's about the literature of the place, sometimes it's about the people, and they're lovely. And we've done at least two, possibly more of that actually. We've done three, haven't we? Yeah, three with Naomi on suffrage and suffrage related things, and one of them went around the West End, which was tremendous fun, and this piece was used we've been around West End and around sort of sites where there were people what was it about? It was where they stationed foreign soldiers, wasn't it, in parts of London, and did performances for them. Sort of tried to indoctrinate them as a captive audience.
Yes.
And we used it for that, I think, didn't we?
Yeah, so this was the Walkabout the Shakespeare Hut, which was the hut for Anzac soldiers during World War I, which was run by the members of the Actresses Franchise League. Sandra is saying she remembers me on skates. Yes.
It was memorable, to be fair.
It's very memorable. Yes, that was in the stage rights walk in the West End. So we did that one, then we did the Shakespeare Hut walk, and then we did a walk about women in World War One. Yeah. The West End and the Western Front. So this takes us slightly into World War One, and it's a really interesting three-hander, all-female three-hander, and it's written by Evelyn Glover, who is the photographer of the cats that you have been seeing. So she was born in Lancashire in 1874, and she had a very long and successful career as a writer. So she's very good at writing sort of suffrage monologues. She has a brilliant one called Showing Samuel, which is great fun. She has quite a well-known suffrage play called A Chat with Mrs. Chicky, and she writes a Bit of Blighty, and she's also got a play in my first book of suffrage plays here. Not my first book of suffrage plays, although I probably should have called it that, called Miss Appleyard's Awakening. And she just observes, I think, just people's conversations in rooms. So this play, I've cut it a bit, but this is a three-hander called A Bit of Blighty that was first performed, let me just check this, excuse me, first performed at the Queen's Theatre, London in 1917, and then was performed throughout 1917 in Birmingham, Portsmouth, Glasgow, and kind of particularly around the home counties, I think. So you may see some familiar faces in this one. This is A Bit of Blighty, and really interesting for me, in spoilers, there's a professional female photographer featured in this, which I think obviously we can't really get across on Zoom, but that must be fascinating to see live on stage, the paraphernalia of the photographer, portable photographer out of their studio in that period. I'll shut up and get on with transitioning. Small living room in tenement dwelling. Door right, window centre, fireplace left. Dresser with drawers and crockery on shelves. There is a looking glass hanging on the wall, also coloured patriotic prints. Mrs. Eagle is sitting in a rocking chair, knitting. There is a tap at the door, and Miss Holt appears with small camera and tripod. Good afternoon, are you Mrs. Eagle?
Yes, miss.
May I come in? You wrote to the Snapshots from Home League and said you wanted a photograph taken for your boy in France, and I'm doing the work for this district. I'm Miss Holt.
Oh, yes, miss. I understand there is nothing to pay.
No, nothing. I take the photograph and give it to you to send to your son. The light's so good today, I thought I'd come on the chance of finding you.
But I couldn't be done now. I'm not dressed.
Oh, I'm sure you look very nice.
You're not seen me in my Sunday blouse. Not that that's what it might be, owing to denying myself a lovely bit of bead trimming. To dress extravagantly in wartime is worse than bad form. It's unpatriotic.
Well, I can't see what's wrong with the blouse you have on.
What, me in a weekday blouse? Oh, I couldn't be took in this.
Oh, I could wait while you change your blouse.
Oh, well, if you don't mind doing that, I wouldn't keep you longer than I could help.
Oh, it'll take me a little time to get ready too.
It's a particular photograph, it is, and I'll tell you for why.
Yep.
He's as good as a lad as ever stepped, is my Jim. Allows me 3 and 6 regular, and never gave me a day's anxiety in all my life. Only honest.
Girl, I suppose.
How on earth did you know that?
Oh, you're not the first soldier's mother I photographed. She wasn't the kind of girl you liked?
An harpy. That's what I call her, a harpy. Mind you, I would have never known nothing about her if one of my lady friends hadn't gone down to Woolwich, and that's where Jim was, until he went to France 6 weeks ago, and she seen them walking out together. An huzzy with pearls and feathers was Mrs. Charman's very words when she came to borrow me airbrush last Wednesday fortnight.
Then they are engaged?
You see, miss, my Jim's never been one for a sweetheart. Many a time he said to me, You're all the sweetheart I need, mother.
Well, it's rough on a mother when her only boy goes.
Yes, but if I had a dozen, I'd have sent a lot.
Bravo.
I know if they put me over there with my old rocking chair and a gun, I'd show them.
Well done. About the photograph, where did you want it taken?
I was coming to that. You see, Jim, he don't happen to have named the girl to me.
Oh, you haven't written to him about her then?
Oh, no, miss. I haven't. I reckon I can say what I want without no questions now that I've applicated for my photograph. Or leastways you can.
Aye.
Can you make a picture of me sitting in me rocking chair here by the table and a teapot and a loaf and jam in front of the firelight dancing, and Jim's place is set with his mug, a present from Margate, and me looking at the door and saying, Come along, in for your tea, lad, and I can write your sweetheart underneath.
Yeah, splendid, Mrs. Eagle. And it'll have to be a timed exposure. I mean, you have to keep still for 5 or 6 seconds, but I'll do it.
I'll give Jim away to the right girl, but it would break my heart if he was to get hooked on a harpy. If he's sitting them in them trenches and there to be happened thoughts of that huzzy with flowers, with feathers in his mind, I reckon it'll bring him to his senses quicker than the sight of his old mother waiting for him to come home to his tea.
Well, we must do our best. There's...
Come in.
I beg your pardon, but they tell me downstairs a Snapshots from Home photographer was here, and I wanted to ask if I might be in one of them pictures to send to France.
Yeah, to some soldier relation?
Well, he's not exactly a relation.
Sweetheart.
And have you any objections, may I ask?
Oh, my dear no. If your lad is writ asking for a picture of you, you get the best one took you can. They want something to look at living in them rabbit warrens.
Well, he ain't exactly writ.
Oh, don't you go and make yourself too cheap.
Never. But there ain't no harm in being prepared.
If you want a snapshot from Home League photograph taken, I'll do it with pleasure. Do you live in this building?
No, miss, I only come to see a friend. I work all day on munitions, but I've got this afternoon off because I cut my finger.
Oh, poor thing. Well, are you far from here? I'll come on after I finish with Mrs. Eagle.
It's an hour by bus, miss.
Oh, I'm afraid it's too late for today then.
Oh, couldn't you do it here, miss, the same as me?
Oh, yes, I could do that if you don't mind.
You're very kind.
Oh, not a bit, my dear. I'm a rare one for sizing things up. Your young man wants keeping up to the mark. Isn't writing regular, I dare say.
Well, they don't get no time for writing.
Well, which am I to do first?
We want our minds free for mine. You can come over and sit down, my dear.
You're very kind.
Too plain.
I can't help me face no more than you can.
Tisn't your face, it's your act. Man likes a bit of smartness.
Well, I don't like being done in this act myself. You come out for the afternoon and there's black clouds about. You leave your best hat at home. My best hat's got two lovely feathers.
I'll have to ask you to move your chair about a foot further back. I want the light full on your face.
Hush, now, I wonder.
Mrs. E goes to the drawer and rummages, producing a couple of feathers.
I'm rather an hand with an act.
Oh,
Shake, ain't it?
oh, not half.
Mrs. E goes to the drawer again and reappears with a small box from which she removes a string of pearls.
My boy gave me these at Christmas. He'd never buy cheap jewellery, wouldn't Jim?
Jim? I'm partial to the name Jim myself.
Jim Penny's his name.
Where is he, your boy?
Well, he ain't far from Wipers, but he mayn't say no more. He's a good lad for keeping to the regulations, is Jim. Never give me a minute's trouble, not till he lost his head over the wrong kind of girl at Woolwich, and I'm to blame her, not him for that.
Why?
Why? Because if he's killing uns, he isn't wasting his time, and if he was slobbering over her, he would be.
Oh, you think you'll forget this one?
Oh, it won't be my fault if he don't. We've always been like sweethearts, Jim and me, and when the time comes for him to take a wife, I'll find her for him, and that's all.
Do you think you'll do what you say? Men aren't so ready.
I'd go to work artful, I don't mind telling you, as there's a picture going to be took this very afternoon of his old mother sitting by his empty chair waiting for him to come home to his tea, and your sweetheart writ underneath. Ah, tugs at your heartstrings, does a photograph.
Now let's try. Just put your hand on one arm of the chair, will you? Never mind your feet, they won't show.
No, I don't think I'll be took after all.
Why not?
I've changed my mind.
But why?
I have, that's all.
Oh, but do please give us a reason.
Would you like to hear the name of the young man I was being took for?
What's that got to do with it?
Jim Penny.
What?
You don't mean... What an extraordinary thing.
You're having a picture took for my Jim.
Perhaps it's not worth it after all.
Not worth it? You Azzy in pearls and feathers.
Your pearls and your feathers?
Come, Mrs. Eagle, you can't say they're not, can you?
You woman. I can't call you no lady. I prefer to use the term woman, and if I had the remotest idea I was talking to the Azzy who got hold of my boy.
I never. I met your boy respectable. My father bringing home to tea one afternoon, and he was rare and good to my brother what's paralysed. And he told me he'd like to take me one day to Marylebone to see his old mother.
Hold yourself.
And then went off to France, sudden. And I ain't heard a word from him from that day to this. But he did ask me for a photograph, and I ain't got one. And now I thought there was no harm in having one ready for him if he did right.
Well, you won't have it ready for me here.
From here? I wouldn't be took here. Not if you was on your bended.
Me go down on my bended for you? I'd sooner think of doing it to the Kaiser.
Don't you mention your low-class friends to me.
Friends? I wouldn't be dropped from the same Zeppelin with him.
Well, you ain't likely to the chance of that kind of joyride, are you?
Nor him either. I'm particular to who I drives out with.
I'd relish 5 minutes in his company myself.
If I had heart-to-heart with him, he'd be a conscientious objector before I'd done.
Oh, if they let me fight, wouldn't I go?
Well, you're in the second line of defence anyway.
I'd think shame of myself if I wasn't doing munitions. Strapping girl like me.
No, I'd be making munitions if it wasn't for me gammy leg.
There's days when your back feels broke and your head's off, split with the noise of the machines, and then you comes out and maybe meets a chap with an empty sleeve. No, I'd not change my job if the shifts were a week long.
God bless you, my girl. God bless you. You're the wife for my Jim.
I'm the wife of no man who don't want me.
Oh, don't want you. I'll see he wants you. Hasn't wrote to you, careless lad. I'll learn him.
Oh, Mrs. Eagle.
Oh, you leave him to me, my dear. Jim was never great with a pen. He's his poor father over again in that. I've seen a man pay 2 penny bus fare to take a message sooner than to send an 8-penny postcard.
I am waiting to take a photograph, miss. I don't think you told me your name.
Oh, beg your pardon. Miss Bulkwell's my name. Mary Bulkwell.
I went to school with an Albert Bulkwell in Camberwell. Lord, how many years back? They used to call him my sweetheart because he always used to give me the first suck of his peppermint rock.
Father's name is Albert and he's brought up in Camberwell.
Does he stutter?
Oh, something cruel.
Oh, my dear, my dear. I don't know what made me take a fancy to you the minute you came into this room, and I'm sure that Mrs. Charman's laughs on the other side of her face, stuffing me with all those lies about you like that.
If you please.
Was you ready, miss?
Oh, I'm awfully sorry to interrupt you both, but if I don't take these photographs soon, the light won't be good enough.
Oh, I'm taking up your time, Mrs. Eagle.
Not you, my dear. You must stay and have a cup of tea with me.
There is a knock at the door and a letter is pushed under it.
Lord, I generally know in the pit of my stomach when it's time for post nowadays, but my mind's been took off it this afternoon. The neighbours are very kind in bringing the letters up, knowing the stairs ain't easy for me, and it's him. Bless him. You'll have to excuse me if I read it, won't you, miss? I couldn't settle to nothing with that envelope shut.
How is he? Is he safe?
Oh, Lord bless you, my dear Jim's safe all right. You just listen to this. You'll excuse me, miss, it seems like you're one of the family this afternoon.
It does, doesn't it?
My dear mum, I've received the fags. They are a treat. The mud out here is a treat. There is a cat like our Joseph come to this dugout and we fed him a treat. However, I'm worried out of my mind. While I was at home, there was a girl and she was the best girl in the world. I have wrote her 4 letters, but she has not answered. Her name is Mary Bulkwell and she lives at 187 Munster Street.
137.
Well, 8, look for yourself.
Oh, that's a 3 all right. What do you say, miss?
Well, he may have meant it for a 3, but I should think anybody would read it as an 8. I should.
Oh, perhaps the postman did.
I shouldn't think there's a doubt of it. You'll find your letters at 187, unless they've been given back to the post office. But why didn't you write to Mr. Penny?
Because he said he'd write and tell me what address to put. I didn't know.
Dear mother, I know your leg is difficult, but I do wish you could go and see her. She worked at munitions. I wish I'd tell you before, dear mother, you are still my sweetheart, but a chap can have 2. Please send me some more flea chaser. Your loving son, Jim. I'm all of amaze to think this just coming with you here and all. If it hadn't been for me having me photograph took.
Yeah, but you haven't.
No more and have I. You first, my dear.
Oh, no, you.
No, you.
No, you.
Both together.
Oh, Mrs. Eagle.
Oh, Lord, what a lot. Give Jim the surprise of his life. God bless him. When there's feathers and now pearls. Oh, get another chair.
No, you sit down, Mrs. Eagle. She must stand by you. Yes, that's right. 1 minute. I'll have to focus again.
I'm that excited. I hardly know what I'm doing or fancy Jim when he sees you and me in a group.
Now you'll have to keep still. Put your hand on Mrs. Eagle's shoulder, Miss Falkwell. Yeah, that's it. Think of something nice.
Tripe and onions.
No. Think of Jim. 1, 2, 3. Now. Curtain. I like the Central London seagulls in that.
Yeah. Yes. I also noticed that quite often my voice was so high in that actually probably only seagulls and bats could actually hear me.
Stop it now. Stop it now.
But it was lovely, and lovely to be next to Shaz and with you guys in a scene again. It was really, really nice to do that.
Yeah, it's really nice, and it's one of those plays that seems very sort of little and frivolous, but actually is a really lovely kind of wartime play, because actually we are giving a note to the kind of patriotic fever, but it's got a little wink in its eye, and it is a comic play for 3 women, and it is about the kind of domesticity which a lot of particularly those soldiers away from home are really missing and craving. So it's a really lovely little piece. So thank you both.
It's a lovely piece of writing. It's a great choice. Thank you, Naomi.
No, thank you. Right, so I think it's next on the list. Cats.
Hey, cats.
Who wants a cat? Shall I share the things again, or has anyone remembered a favourite cat? Who have we got left? Paul. Jan. Adrian says Jan. What's Jan? Quiz.
Not that one. Great.
Sorry, Becca. Put the
No,
ukulele down.
I'm glad. I'm happy it's someone else. Your turn. You're not doing enough. Do more.
Right, so I've done a poll here. So there are 2 questions. I'll read them out, but there are 2 questions on this poll. And you will have a number I haven't made up yet of seconds to respond to this poll. Let's see. I shall hum March of the Women, which is not one of my favourite songs, but I shall hum March of the Women. And you get to answer both of these questions, and I shall tell you if you're right or not. Here we go. Launch poll. I hope everyone can see the poll. Here we go. Oh wait, you might not be able to see the questions. Now, question 1. Which of the following suffrage societies had the most members? Was it the Women's Freedom League? Was it the National Union of Women's Suffrage Societies? Was it the Actresses Franchise League? Or was it the Women's Social and Political Union? Click the one that you think. Question 2. How did Daisy Solomon and Elspeth McClellan try to get access to the Prime Minister in 1909? Did they post themselves to 10 Downing Street? Did they pose as the wives of foreign ambassadors and knock on the door of 10 Downing Street? Or did they dress as window cleaners and climb up 10 Downing Street? One more chorus of March of the Women to go. Vote now. Should have started higher. Shoulder to shoulder and friend to friend.
I kept
Right.
thinking that was over. It's a much longer chorus than I expected.
It's really long. And I heard it 972 times in 2018. Although it was written by Cicely, the words are written by Cicely Hamilton, who features tonight. Okay, that's it. I'm going to end the poll. Interesting, people, interesting. All right, end poll. I'm going to share the results with you. Okay, so what have we got? Question 1, which of the following suffrage societies have the most members? Ooh, a split there between the National Union of Women's Suffrage Societies and the WSPU. Well, I'll tell you, fact fans, the National Union of Women's Suffrage Societies in 1913 had 50,000 members. The WSPU had at most around 2,000. The Women's Freedom League had around 4,000, and the Actresses Franchise League had just under 1,000. So no, even though we remember the WSPU as being certainly the most visible, particularly because of their branding, they only had about 2,000 members versus the National Union of Women's Suffrage Societies, 50,000 members. So there we go. And number 2, how did Daisy Solomon and Elspeth McClellan try to get access to the Prime Minister in 1909? Ooh, we've got a split vote here. Okay, so we have 43% thought they posted themselves to 10 Downing Street. 43% thinks they posed as the wives of foreign ambassadors and knocked on the door of 10 Downing Street, and 14% said they dressed as window cleaners and climbed up 10 Downing Street. Well, I'm here to tell you that the answer is the first one. They posted themselves to the Prime Minister by express messenger from a post office on the Strand in London. They were delivered to 10 Downing Street by a delivery boy, a messenger boy, and they were refused. So no one would sign for them at 10 Downing Street. So the human letters had to be returned to sender and were escorted back to the WSPU offices in Aldwych. So well done to those who got those right. And you've learned something, hopefully people who didn't. Very good, excellent. Thank you, Jan, for that cat quiz. I shall stop sharing. Okay, yay. All right, so, and the last, okay, so the last salon that we did was about the women's theatre. Oh, which is an idea, if you check out that salon, which you can do on the Scary Little Girls YouTube channel, it's still an idea that is still revolutionary and heartbreakingly optimistic, and also heartbreakingly within reach, if only ideas and things would change. Is that right, Becca?
Yeah, if only we could do it, we just have to all do it. Yeah, it feels tantalizing, and it's frustrating to hear about how it keeps being recreated as an idea, and people going, I know it'll be really good, and then not enough other people agree and do it with them. I suppose is what happens. But yeah, it's still, it's again one of those ones where we looked into it and we're like, this is so relevant today as much as ever, which is a lot after 100 years, when so many other things have changed. We've seen so many other areas of progression, but I think there is a lot we can still do to make to embrace the idea of the women's theatre.
Absolutely, and about better access to opportunities for professional training and large-scale opportunities for women writers and performers. So we're going to link here to, we're going to talk about Cicely Hamilton next, but actually we're going to link here Elizabeth Robbins and Cicely Hamilton, because as Becca kind of intimated earlier, Elizabeth Robbins was writing in kind of 1912 and 1913 about the white slave trade, or kind of sex trafficking, which was a huge and very emotive topic in this period, and it comes with all sorts of its own conversations about how these things were framed and posed and kind of moral ideas. But there was certainly a great deal of concern about women being sexually exploited in this period, particularly the idea of innocent women being sexually exploited in this period. And she wrote a book called My Little Sister, or that in the States, and in the UK it was called Where Are You Going To, which tells the story of two teenage sisters from rural England who end up being unwittingly trafficked to London. They think they're going to go and see their aunt, but due to somebody who's been in their household, they end up being taken to a brothel. And Cicely Hamilton was commissioned to write a play version of this for the second season of the Women's Theatre in 1914. And actually this play was refused by the censor, so it was refused a license by the censor because of the scene in the brothel. And in the censor's letter, which you can see at the British Library, it says that if they licensed this play, they wouldn't have a leg to stand on with Mrs. Warren's Profession, which is a play that Bernard Shaw wrote in the 1890s that had also continually was being refused a license. So I typed up this play in the British Library from the original manuscript, because obviously it was never performed and it was never published. And it's a really interesting piece. And again, lots of things that make it feel very antiquated, lots of things that don't, that make it feel very relevant. And so we're just going to see a really short extract. There's the older sister, whose name is Honor, has escaped from the brothel and got a taxi to the house of her aunt, which is where she thought she was when she was in the brothel, and is trying to explain what's happened, and the fact she'd had to leave her little sister in the brothel, otherwise she couldn't have escaped. And her relatives call a police inspector who interviews her, and we're just going to see a little bit of that interview now. That sounds like a reasonable introduction, doesn't it? Okay.
Absolutely, more than reasonable, intriguing.
Good-o. Insert smooth transition here.
I understand that you and your sister arrived at Victoria this afternoon by the 5:12. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what happened then after you got out of the train?
A lady came up to us. She waved to us just as the train was stopping. We thought she was our aunt. She asked us if we were Honor and Betty.
You're sure?
Yes.
Sure she mentioned your names?
Yes, quite.
Then will you tell me what she was like to look at, as accurately as you can, please?
She is tall, with grey hair rolled back like this. She was beautifully dressed, with a hat full of ostrich feathers, and all her clothes smelt of scent. I think you'd call her handsome, but I don't know. She wore pearl earrings, like Aunt Josephine in the photograph we had. She seemed pleased to see us, and she took us to her motor.
Did you notice the number of the car?
No,
What sort of car? What make?
a large car, green, dark green.
Dark green. Did you notice the chauffeur's livery?
It was dark, with brass buttons, and the footman's too.
Ah. 2 men on the driver's seat. I understand that you don't know London at all.
I've never been to London before.
Can you describe at all the way you went after you turned out of the station?
I think there was a kind of garden first, or a patch of green, and then a long wall on one side and some high houses on the other.
And afterwards, can you remember what came next?
What came next?
I think it's important.
A big open space, very wide, with lots of traffic, and 2 large arches. The policeman held out his arm, and we stopped in the middle of the road.
Hyde Park Corner.
We went on into a park with flower beds and... My God, we keep talking. Aren't we going to find her? Aren't we going to...
I'm very sorry, miss, but it's the only way we shall get a clue. You said you went through a park with flower beds.
Yes, we did. Flower beds and houses beyond them.
Houses on your right-hand side?
Yes.
And did you go straight through the park till you came to a large arch with a street beyond it, or did you turn off?
Yes, we came to a large arch, another large arch.
And
Then, well, I only remember streets, a lot of streets.
And you can't remember the name of any street you passed? You didn't see the name written up at any of the corners?
No, we were watching the people and talking. We never thought of looking.
And the street you were set down in, what was it like?
There were large houses, very large, with gardens in front of them. The houses had porches, porticos.
Yes, you can't remember anything else about them, any details?
No, we went in so quickly.
After you left the park, how long was it before the car stopped?
Not long, only a few minutes.
How many minutes? 10?
I should think not more than 10.
And now the young lady's description, please. Her name?
Bettina Dorian.
Bettina Dorian.
Does it matter how you spell it?
Age?
Nearly 17.
Height and appearance?
She's 5'3", and she looks younger than she is, younger than 17. She has fair hair and a very pretty complexion.
Eyes?
Grey. Large eyes.
Thank you. We'll do what we can. You can rely on that.
And what I've told you, does it give you any clue?
Well, not so very much. Somewhere north of Oxford Street or Bayswater Road, 10 minutes from Marble Arch, and even that's vague. There's a good many houses of that sort within a 10-minute radius of Marble Arch. It's possible one of our men may have noticed the car at Victoria. The woman's obviously an old hand, and we get to know most of these people by sight. That's about our best chance. And there's the taxi picked you up and brought you here. I'll have inquiries made for him. The driver picked up the lady in evening dress, Marylebone, Bayswater, Paddington, or St John's Wood district. Dropped off at 160 Lowndes Square.
What are you waiting for? Don't just stand there.
We'll do all there is to be done. You can be sure of that.
What is there to be done?
Well, we'll make all inquiries that...
Inquiries? But aren't you going to look for her? Aren't you going to begin this instant?
It wouldn't be much good starting out to look for her until we've identified the house, would it now?
But how long will that take? When will you identify it? When?
Well, it's difficult to say, but we'll do all we can. Sooner or later, we're bound to identify it.
Sooner or later? Does that mean now? Tonight?
Well, we've got to make our inquiries, but as I said, we're bound to identify it in the end. It's sure to be on our list. Then we'll apply for a search warrant.
On your
And
list? What list?
why, the list we have, the police list of that sort of house.
That sort of house? Do you mean that there is more than one? Do you mean that there are many of them?
Well,
Do you mean that there are a great many?
I'm afraid there are, miss. You see, young ladies like you.
Great many houses where they take girls, and so many that you can't tell which. And you know it. And you keep a list. If you know it, why don't you stop it?
Really powerful.
It's a really interesting piece, isn't it? And that whole her revelation of you know it, but you keep a list of how complicit everybody is. We know it, it's bad, but it happens, and there's a kind of inevitability to it. That whole idea is really interesting. And the play, I won't spoil it, but yeah, there are two versions of the play. Robbins herself wrote a version of the play with a happy ending, and Hamilton's version follows Robbins' original book, which has an unhappy ending. Let's put it like that way. But I think it's really interesting that Hamilton is writing in this period, and one of the most interesting things I think about it is as I say in the Salon other times, there are often plays that are very hard hitting about, particularly around prostitution or around forcible feeding or militancy or mistreatment of police or domestic violence or violence against women and girls. And it's not that people weren't writing about this, it's that every single play had to go through the theatre censor. And that so when particularly suffrage playwrights wanted to write about activism or wanted to make references to particular things that were going on in government or in society, they had to be quite subtle in some cases or quite codified in the way they wrote about it in order that the plays would be licensed for the stage and therefore could be published and reproduced. So it can be easy to say, well, where are the plays about forceful feeding? Where are the kind of blood and thunder plays of suffrage? If you wanted your play to reach a wider audience, you would have to necessarily be very careful about how you wrote it in order that it would pass the censor. So there are plays that live like this one in the archive that were never licensed, that were never brought before the public, but it doesn't mean these things weren't being discussed on stage by feminist and suffragist writers in this period.
Brilliant. Should we talk a bit more about Cicely Hamilton? Because
yeah,
I love her.
Yeah, so Cicely Hamilton was born in London in 1872, and she began working as an actress in the 1890s. And for the first decade of her career, touring around the UK in a variety of plays and a variety of roles. And like Elizabeth Robbins, she became involved in the suffrage movement around 1906, 1907. She's really, really interesting because she continues acting as well as writing. She kind of has a portfolio career as a professional actress, as well as a professional writer. She's a journalist, and she's a novelist, and she's a playwright. And she's the founder member of the Women Writers Suffrage League and the Actors Franchise League, but she's also affiliated to the WSPU and the Women's Freedom League. She was the editor of The Vote, the newspaper for the Women's Freedom League, and obviously she wrote the words of March of the Women. She's quite interesting. She describes herself as a feminist rather than a suffragist, and she writes really interesting suffrage pieces. Some are very serious and earnest, some are written in verse, some are direct comedies, and some really pastiche the stereotypes of the movement, the kind of the violent suffragette or the early Victorian lady or the dim policeman. And it really, she doesn't kind of run away from embracing those stereotypes. She just exposes them and go, look, isn't this silly? Now can we talk about it? So we've got a bit, because she's involved in so many different groups, kind of as tensions in the suffrage movement, particularly around militancy and tactics, become heightened. She wrote, I think you're going to read for us, Becca, she wanted suffragists who were frustrated by these differing views held across the movement, the differing views of feminists and the differing views of suffragists, to actually see this diversity of views as a sign of progress and as evidence that women were asserting themselves more confidently as individuals. So Becca's going to read some of Hamilton's words from a speech she gave in January 1911 entitled "The Spirit of the Movement."
I think we all of us ought to realise that one of the big causes that lie behind suffrage movement is the new consciousness in woman, that she is free to think for herself. Think of the years, of the generations that women have been told they must not think. It is only within the last generation we have found our brain and a mind and begun to stumble slowly forward. and to bring a new view to bear upon things as they are, not only upon things as they ought to be. We see things with a view that is entirely different to that which our brothers had. They saw things as our fathers saw them, but we see things very differently from the way our mothers saw them.
Thank you. She wrote frequently in her journalistic and her dramatic work about the sort of systemic in economic inequalities faced by women, and is especially keen to challenge what she called the identification of success with marriage, of failure with spinsterhood, and the artificial concentration of the hopes of girlhood on sexual attraction and maternity. So her experiences as a touring actress, and she writes very movingly about her experiences in digs and around the country, seeing ordinary women's lives all over the place, really reinforced her belief in the need for women to be paid and treated fairly, and to learn about and have access to birth control, and to be able to live independent lives on their own terms. So she wrote this in her book, Marriage as a Trade, first published in 1909. Thank you, Becca.
It is ridiculous to suppose that nature, who never makes two blades of grass alike, desired to turn our indefinite millions of women all cut to the regulation pattern of wifehood. That is to say, all home-loving, charming, submissive, industrious, unintelligent, tidy, possessed with a desire to please, well-dressed, jealous of their own sex, self-sacrificing, cowardly, filled with a burning passion for maternity, endowed with a talent for cooking, narrowly uninterested in the world outside their own gates, and capable of sinking their identity and interests in the identity of interests of a husband.
Thank you very much. I still think that's really powerful, just that idea, that kind of cookie cutter idea. And as we still kind of challenge those ideas about femininity and what femaleness is, particularly more and more nowadays, and just that whole idea that somehow there's innate desire to be the dog's body. It's really interesting.
The concept of that, whatever that is, wifehood or womanhood, is possibly in someone else's head, and that we are meant to just play it out, as you say, enjoying this sort of domesticity and all that goes with it, or this performance of womanhood and all that goes with it. It's really interesting.
It is, and
the book is funny as well, isn't it? It's a funny book.
It's really good, and a lot of
really cuttingly. It's lovely.
Yeah, and she's like, so Cicely Hamilton was unmarried and she didn't have children, and like many other suffrage writers, she chooses to focus on women's professional lives, or on their personal friendships, on a kind of a wider sort of sisterhood, rather than roles as kind of wives and mothers. And she's constantly kind of testing the boundaries there of how women can assert themselves in social and political and economic space. And she's an extraordinary writer.
She might be secretly my favourite person we've covered in this salon.
Really?
I think so, yeah, I really love her.
I really love her too. And some of her plays, if anyone's interested, Pageant of Great Women is a phenomenal play, really clever. I've published the Anti-Suffrage Waxworks in my second book of suffrage plays, and she also was responsible for, with Christopher St John, for some of the most popular suffrage comedies, including How the Vote Was Won, which is a lovely one-act ensemble comedy, which you've done, Becca, and Pot and Kettle as well. So she's a prolific, pragmatic, and amazing writer who has a real awareness from both within and without the movement, and within and without the industry, of looking at women's roles and the limitations, and also the possibilities of how we could go forward.
Yeah, and she's witty, radical feminist wit. Yes.
Boom. Okay, so we've this is zipped by. So we're going to close with a double song. We're both going to share in a song. So this song, this is a song written, the words are written by a brilliant suffrage playwright called Lawrence Houseman, who is fantastic. He was an honorary male associate at the Women Writers' Suffrage League, and with his sister Clemence, he founded the Suffrage Atelier, and he also wrote suffrage plays. And this is an adaptation of a Rudyard Kipling poem called Tommy This and Tommy That. Kipling was a vicious anti-suffragist. So it's quite fun that Houseman wrote Woman This and Woman That. It was published in 1910, and it was the party piece of an actress and singer called Decima Moore, who was part of the Actors Franchise League and had made her name in D'Oyly Carte. So I'm going to get my ukulele as well.
Yay!
Yay! Oh, my
I
foot's
just
got slick.
realised we've been very slick. You probably won't have noticed, viewers, but we've had a little WhatsApp group in case anything was going wrong with things. And even when things were going wrong, we were saying audio or whatever, there was nothing Naomi could do about it. But at least you had me and Matt both telling her that it was happening. But she's just asked me some questions and I didn't get back to her. So I'm sorry about that, Naomi. But yes, we can still do the song.
Oh, I get to show off my Suffrage ukulele, Winifred.
Oh, she's
Look at
lovely.
that. And actually, we've got, oh, look, CH for Cicely Hamilton and ER for Elizabeth Robbins there. Look at that. On
lovely.
Winifred the Suffrage ukulele. Winifred is my favourite character in How the Vote Was Won. Okay, I'm just going to... Okay. Due to the vagaries of Zoom, so I'm going to do the verses, Becca's going to do the choruses, and we are going to slickly mute and unmute ourselves so that you don't get feedback. All right, I'm going to start. Lawrence Houseman, woman this and woman that. We went up to St. Stephen's with petitions year by year. Get out, the politicians cried, we want no women here. MPs behind the railings stood and laughed to see the fun, and bold policemen knocked us down because we would not run.
For it's woman this and woman that and woman go away. But it's share and share alike, man, when the taxes are to pay. The taxes are to pay, my friend, the taxes are to pay. Oh, it's pleased to pay out promptly when the taxes are to pay.
We went before a magistrate who would not hear us speak. To a drunken brute who beat his wife, he only gave a week. But we were sent to Holloway a calendar month or more, because we dared against his will to knock at Asquith's door.
For it's woman this and woman that and woman wait outside. But it's listen to the ladies when it suits your party's side. When it suits your party's side, my friend, when MP's on the stump and shaking in his shoes at how the cat is going to jump.
When women go to work for them, the government engage to give them lots of contract jobs at low starvation wage. But when it's men that they employ, they always add a note. Fair wages must be paid because the men have got the vote.
For it's woman this and woman that and woman learn your place. But it's helpers of your charity when trouble looms apace. When trouble comes apace, my friends, when trouble comes apace, then it's oh for women's charity to help and save the race.
You dress yourselves in uniforms to guard your native shores, but those who make the uniforms do work as good as yours. For the soldier bears the rifle, but the woman bears the race, and that you'd find no trifle if you had to take her place.
For it's woman this and woman that, and woman cannot fight, but it's ministering angel when the wounded come in sight. When the wounded come in sight, my friends, the wounded come in sight. It's a ministering angel then who nurses day and night.
We may not quite be angels, had we been we should have flown. We're only human beings who have wants much like your own. And if sometimes our conduct isn't all your fancy paints, it wasn't man's example that have turned us into saints.
Nice recovery. For it's a woman here and woman there and woman on the streets, and it's how they look at women with most men that one meets. With most men that one meets, my friends, with most men that one meets. It's the way they look at women that keeps women on the streets.
You talk of sanitation and temperance and schools. You send your male inspectors to impose your man-made rules. The woman's sphere's the home, you say, then prove it to our face. Give us the vote that we may make the home a happier place.
For it's woman this and woman that, and woman have your say. But it's what's the woman up to when she tries to show the way. When she tries to show the way, my friend, she tries to show the way. And the woman means to show it, and that's why she's out today.
Hooray! Yes! Thank you, Lawrence Houseman, for that. I love that. Yay! Thank you, Adrian. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. That has, well, for me, that's zipped by. So thank you. Becca, closing thoughts, final pithy nuggets.
Whoa, no pressure. No, thank you so much. Thank you for this fantastic season, Naomi. You've been amazing. It's been fantastic to open your brain and spill out some of the ingredients. I think there's probably loads more in there, and to share that with all these lovely people, and to have done this intimate performative experiment with you tonight. Let us know if you think this is a nice format, and do have a little look, and just tell your friends to join in next week when we have a captioned version as well. And please feel free to support the stuff me and Naomi are doing. Follow us on Twitter, have a look at the Greenham celebratory work that's going on, buy Naomi's books, buy my book that's coming out on the 2nd of September. Who can believe it? I can't. Yeah, just mega love. Thank you so much. Chin chin, push hearts. See you all for season 5. It's coming up later in the year.
Thank you, everybody.